Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for morning prayer. Thank you for joining me for this reflection. This morning's sermon is Mary's story. You know, when the angel Gabriel comes and visits her, it's found in the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke, and you all know it. Gabriel comes and he says, Mary, you've been chosen by God, and you will give birth to a boy, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. And he will be the heir to David's throne, and he will rule forever. The thing about this story, though, to me, that makes it as powerful as it is Mary's response. And what Mary's response actually means. She simply says, I am your servant. I'll do what you ask. I will trust, and I'll be the one you need me to be. Now, on its face, that's not a real big deal. I mean, God, throughout the course of human history, as it is related in the Bible, always, continuously, is asking people to do things. He's calling them to do things. He's calling them to fight battles and to fight wars. He's calling them to lead his people. He's calling them to perform miracles. Mary's different. Mary is different. At this time, she's probably 13 or 14 years old. She's living in a shame-based society. She's living in a culture that treasures virginity, right? She, as a matter of fact, it says she's been betrothed to an older man. She has been betrothed to an older man at this early age because she is considered sexually pure, untouched. She's never been known by another man. It's of value. Her inexperience is of value. And when people of this time find out that their wives aren't virgins, it doesn't usually end well. It usually ends really, really badly. Best case scenario would be a shameful divorce, which we know from later readings that's what Joseph actually had planned. Worst case scenario is death. And Mary says yes. So she's doing far more than saying, yes, I'll do it. I'll take on this mission you're asking. She's actually accepting. She is accepting to take on a great deal more than to carry a child. She's going to accept shame. At this time, she doesn't know how it's all going to play out. She doesn't know what God has in mind. She doesn't know how God's going to look after her. Ultimately, thankfully, it all works out for her. But she doesn't know about the life that this is going to mean for her. At her age, she would have known that what she was agreeing to could lead to her being ostracized from her family, expelled, kicked out. It could lead to community shame. Her entire community and really her entire world looking down on her. She would be aware that this might actually cost her the life she had envisioned for herself, the life she expected she would have. But one thing she wouldn't have been counting on was being the mother of a crucified man. Being the mother of a man who many would consider to be a lunatic, a madman. When Mary says yes to this, she may have had an idea of what was going to transpire. Yeah, she might have had a pretty good idea about how things were going to go, but she couldn't possibly have imagined it all. Not just from Gabriel's words here. In my estimation, Mary, this 13-year-old girl, is leaps and bounds one of the most bravest people you see in the Bible. She acts with complete trust and courage. She relies completely on God. She allows herself to be completely held in his hands. He asks her to do something that is terrifying, and she says yes. What does this say for the rest of us? What does this say for the rest of us when God comes to us and says, please wear your mask, and we say, no, we're not going to wear our mask. That's a bridge too far. Look at Mary's response. When God comes to us and says, sacrifice for your neighbors, we say, no, we're not going to do that. We have a right. And then we look at Mary's response. When God says, give your hearts and your hands and your time and your talent and your treasure to help your community. And we say, no, we don't have time for that. We've got to look after ourselves. What about Mary's response? When God says, take care of the immigrant, take care of the refugee, and our response is, no, we must take care of our own. Look at Mary's response. Mary, at the age of 13 or 14, shows more courage and confidence and trust than I ever have in my entire life. Mary, at the age of 13 or 14, shows more confidence and courage than any full-grown, mature Western leader I've read about in the last 20 years. God calls all of us to mission. God calls all of us into our communities to bring the light of Jesus Christ into our communities. When you feel that call, I pray you will respond the way Mary did. I am your servant. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you. And I pray that you will always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. Remember that. I am your servant. Amen.